is well, first of all, it's education. It's understanding that it even exists. The second, had to shut down our emotion. This area, gently, doesn't have to be your heart. It could be the lung area, the liver, the guts, the groin. Like all this area is sort of the field of emotion. And when we have frozenness in the body, when we've had to shut down our emotion, this whole area gets shut down. This is called interoception. I talk about this in video number 2, the 7 ways to become your own medicine. To become our own medicine, we have to learn how to listen to the landscape that is our viscera, that is our heart, and the blood that flows through, and our digestion and our reproduction and all of that stuff. So we have to be able to be with, right? So the first thing with coming out of freeze is well, first of all, it's education. It's understanding that it even exists. The second is environmental safety. The third is internal felt sense safety. And then the fourth would be knowing that there are going to be very tough qualities that we once held on to that are still there that we will want to be able to be with. I always say we have to be willing to not fear fear. That was an article that I wrote maybe a month or so ago. That article started out as, I never finished it. The full article was what we have to do in order to heal. And the first point was we have to be willing to not fear fear. That sounds kind of like, oh, well, that's easy. It's not easy. It takes time. But we have to realize that fear is not the problem. We need fear. If all of a sudden something came rummaging into my house like a burglar, I would want to be afraid, right? If I froze, that would not be useful for me. I would want to run upstairs, find a way to hide. That fear response is going to protect me, right? But what happens is when we've had too many of these threatening responses in our lifetime, we become overloaded, and then that's where we shut down and we stop knowing how to deal with these reactions. And then that's where we hold on to emotion. It gets stuck in the body, and the body literally can't hold on to it anymore. And then that's where the nervous system becomes dysregulated, which is what I first started talking about well over an hour ago when that question was asked, what are the signs of a dysregulated nervous system, right? That's what it is. So fight, flight, and freeze are not bad. They're not the enemy, right? We need those. This is one thing that's really important to understand. When you finish this work, that doesn't even make sense because there is no finish. In other words, even when a person is regulated, they will still have to navigate stresses and fear responses, right? If someone gets into an accident,
Just a little pause. Maybe if you're listening to this, I'm hosting an event, a group event with TRE, trauma release exercises. So we can actually do this work on a bigger scale. So you get to be, it will be on a Saturday, this Saturday, doing these exercises to release the stress that is stored in your body. So mainly into the leg muscles. And yeah, one session is already very beneficial because you'll just release the cup of stress that your body is holding on to. So I just want to mention that in case you're listening to this, it's a message. Maybe DM me so I can send you the invite.
Their system to mobilize and attack and flood the system with appropriate healing mechanisms, but then we want to come down out of it. And that's the part that we've really missed, which is what I talk about in video number 2, this capacity to come out of our fight, flight, freeze and restore regulation back to the system. Now, of course, if someone has never experienced regulation, so this is...
And this is going to be more about chronic stress, as in the Western world, parenting, such.
caveat that can be really tough sometimes to swallow, but it's important to understand. If there was no regulation from the beginning, right? So if a person really was born into a very toxic household and mom was frightened for her life when she was pregnant because she never resolved her own traumas, therefore she got into an abusive relationship, and grandparents aren't helpful and all this stuff. If a little person never got solid regulation, this is what developmental trauma is, early trauma. They don't have a map for what it means to be safe. Everything is dangerous. The world is a dangerous place, and we're all going to die. That's what my mentor, Kathy Kane, that's like the buzzwords that she uses. When a person has that rubric that the world is a dangerous place, we're all going to die, I need to protect, I need to stay vigilant. This is the case for most people that have some kind of mental illness or chronic illness. We need to, first of all, realize, okay.
And on a side note, it's not always parents. It can be uncles, aunts, and with one of my clients recently, it was a sibling. So, as in creating a traumatic event, but trauma can be daily, weekly. It's not a one-time event, and it could be just the whole caretaking and parenting, or the relationship, so the attachment that people have.
I have no map, right? It's like telling someone, I want you to drive from Paris to Rome. Here's a car, here's the gas, here's money. You've got everything you need. This is it. But then they look at the car and they go, but no one ever taught me how to drive. I can't get from Paris to Rome.
Yeah, and this is where epigenetics comes in. So with healing, we rewire the brain, the body, the chemical response, the neurons, the spirit, the soul, everything. So we create a new vehicle. And with some people, this can be very quick if there was already hardwiring. And with others, it's chronic. So it really stems from parenting, and it's been decades and decades. So we take more time to respect the body and the mind.
It's the same kind of thing. So in this work, some folks did learn how to drive really well, right? They had good regulation, but then they had a shock trauma along the way that threw.
I guess she's now saying the same thing as I just said, so we'll continue listening.
Off, right? This work is still important for that person, because in our culture we've been taught to just kind of shut off our emotions. But the folks that didn't get that driving lesson when they were little, that didn't understand, they didn't learn how to shift gears and to look both ways and to feel the engine of the car and all these things that make a good driver, if they didn't.
Body awareness, in other words. So we teach adults body awareness, and we teach ourselves, of course, and we teach our children body awareness to solve issues. That's the healing work. That's the therapeutic work.
That we need to literally teach, okay, well, this is a car, right? It takes fuel, right? You need to make sure that, you look both ways before you see the red light. These are the things when a little person hasn't gotten the good self-regulation apprenticeship from a regulated caregiver, we need to reteach that stuff. So this question of, what does it take to come out of freeze? This is what it comes down to. It seems really like, oh my God, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. It takes a lot to rebuild a system that never got built properly in the first place.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work, but not like this work can be done very quickly in minimal hours if the therapist / coach / healer has expertise and knowledge and training, etc. So and that absolutely doesn't mean qualifications, because this stuff is cutting edge. Okay, so it's what Joe Dispenza talks about in Epigenetics. So a lot of work can be done within limited hours, so you get quality. And yeah,
and most of those listening who have really chronic illness, if you're someone who works with people who have chronic illness, this is the level that we have to come back to. Safety, external safety, internal, and then being able to be with really intense fright and fear, emotions, feelings, sensations, without disconnecting.
so safety is first. That's basically it. Safety first. And when the person is helping themselves forward, they will not sit in their trauma. They will not sit in their emotions. They will actually help themselves forward, which makes the work easier to move on with. And otherwise, it just needs more time, more gentle approach, more weekly follow-up. But safety first. So you can, the newest trend that's been trending is in the mainstream as well, is the hypnosis from Marissa Peer. So this is excellent. Hypnosis is great for the person that's ready, that's totally supportive of themselves, ready. But if they're not ready, they need to be ready first and safe in their own body.
Question here, how is dissociation expressed? Dissociation is what occurs when we can't handle something that's intense. So part of this work is being able to feel intensity and not shut off, not blank out, right? It's being able to sense the intense fright and go, oh, I am so scared right now, and I'm just going to stay with it because I can tell and I see around me that no one's trying to harm me. I'm actually okay. But everything written in my body would say otherwise. That makes sense?